Destiny is not waiting for you. It is watching you. Not your dreams. Not your intentions. Your actions. Iqbal reminds us of a hard truth. What you repeat today becomes the future that will one day confront you. Destiny is not dramatic. It is obedient. It follows patterns quietly, until escape is no longer possible. In this episode, we explore Iqbal's radical rejection of fatalism. For him, destiny, taqdeer, is not a sentence written elsewhere. It is the accumulated echo of daily action. Action creates habit. Habit forms character. Character produces consequence. Consequence becomes destiny. Fate does not punish or reward. It responds. The self that acts consciously owns its future. The self that delays inherits a destiny shaped by chance. Today, we continue our journey through Asrar-e-Khudi, The Secret of the Self by Allama Iqbal. This is episode 25. Here, Iqbal dismantles the idea of fixed fate and replaces it with responsibility, discipline, and moral authorship. Settle into reflection. Let the noise fade, and allow these words on destiny and action to reshape how you meet your own future. Destiny is often imagined as something written elsewhere, finalized beyond reach. Iqbal rejected this surrender. For him, destiny is shaped by what the self repeatedly does. The self does not meet destiny at the end of life. It constructs it daily. Every action leaves a trace. Traces accumulate. Accumulation becomes direction. Direction matures into fate. The self believes fate limits action. In reality, action defines fate. Stillness does not preserve possibility. It erodes it. The self that avoids decision hands authorship away. Indecision feels safe. But safety produces vacuum. Vacuum is filled by chance. Chance is the enemy of destiny. Action reveals seriousness. Thought alone remains hypothetical. Only action commits the self to a line of becoming. That commitment shapes the future. Without consultation, the self learns that destiny is not punishment nor reward. It is consequence. Consequence respects effort, not intention. Intention unacted disappears. Action acted upon remains. The self that postpones action believes time will fix uncertainty. Time fixes nothing without movement. Movement provides feedback. Feedback refines judgment. Judgment improves action. Destiny solidifies around choices repeated. Occasional effort does not shape fate. Consistency does. Consistency builds direction quietly. The self understands that small actions determine large outcomes. Large gestures attract attention. Small habits shape life. Life obeys pattern, not spectacle. Destiny responds to discipline more than desire. Desire initiates. Discipline sustains. Sustained effort carves destiny. The self often complains about circumstances. Circumstances are results. Results answer to behavior. Behavior anchored daily creates circumstance eventually. The self must stop waiting for clear signs. Signs follow action. Action precedes certainty. Certainty follows alignment. Action sharpens intent. Intent clarified shapes will. Will exercised persistently becomes force. Force directed ethically becomes destiny implemented. The self learns that destiny is elastic early and rigid later. Early life forgives drift. Later life records it. Delayed seriousness costs flexibility. Action does not require perfection. Imperfect action educates. Inaction teaches nothing. Learning refines trajectory. The self realizes that destiny is never imposed suddenly. It arrives gradually. Gradual arrival hides construction. Many are surprised by a fate they built silently. Destiny formed without awareness feels external. Destiny shaped consciously feels owned. Ownership creates dignity. The self must conclude that to act is to choose. What kind of future is allowed? Allowed futures multiply. Denied futures vanish silently. The self understands that destiny favors courage. Courage moves toward uncertainty. Uncertainty reveals capacity. Capacity expanded changes future options. The self that fears error avoids action. Avoidance cements limitation. Mistake acknowledged creates adaptability. Adaptability expands destiny. The self learns that action binds time. Time without action dissolves. Action anchors moments into continuity. Continuity creates narrative. Narrative defines fate. The self no longer waits to feel worthy before acting. Worth develops through effort. Effort dignifies existence. Dignified existence shapes destiny. The self recognizes that destiny is moral. Actions distort or deepen character. Character shapes influence. Influence shapes outcome. The self cannot deceive destiny. Patterns speak louder than claims. Destiny listens to behavior. Over-explanation. The self understands that destiny is not far away. It is forming now. In posture. In choice. In effort. In avoidance. Action taken reluctantly still shapes fate. Action avoided deliberately shapes it too. There is no neutrality where destiny is concerned. The self that wants a different future must act differently now. Waiting changes nothing. Movement transforms everything. The self begins to feel that destiny is demanding attention. Attention precedes responsibility. Responsibility activates authorship. Authorship affirms Khudi. The self slowly realizes that destiny is not momentum alone. Momentum without direction accelerates error. Direction without movement produces illusion. Only directed action creates a future that can be inhabited. The self learns that fate is written in patterns, not events. Events attract attention. Patterns command outcomes. Destiny obeys repetition. The self often misreads destiny because it waits for dramatic confirmation. Destiny confirms quietly. It confirms each morning by offering continuation or resistance. Resistance signals misalignment. Continuation signals coherence. The self must learn to respect resistance. Resistance is not rejection. It is information. Information refined guides action. Action adjusted reshapes trajectory. Destiny favors those who interpret feedback, not those who curse circumstance. Complaint freezes. Interpretation evolves. Evolution expands options. The self learns that action forms habit. Habit forms character. Character invites consequence. Consequence completes destiny. The self cannot outrun destiny, because destiny is not ahead. It is underneath. It supports or collapses action, depending on what has been built. The self that keeps breaking promises to itself constructs fragile destiny. Fragile destiny collapses under pressure. Pressure reveals preparation. Preparation determines survival. The self begins to see that destiny is cumulative weight. Each act adds weight. Some acts strengthen foundation. Others introduce cracks. Cracks widen silently, until collapse surprises the unobservant. The self understands that destiny does not negotiate. It does not argue. It unfolds. Unfolding is impartial. Only preparation alters unfolding quality. The self must distinguish between effort and motion. Motion distracts. Effort transforms. Effort accumulates substance. Substance alters fate. The self that disperses itself across countless pursuits constructs unstable destiny. Focused effort builds narrow but deep channels. Depth resists disruption. Resilience shapes fate. Destiny requires continuity of will. Will disrupted repeatedly loses force. Force weakened cannot sustain direction. Direction without force dissolves into missed opportunity. The self learns that courage once does not make destiny brave. Courage practiced daily does. Practice changes identity. Identity reshapes horizon the self sees. That destiny is not a destination. It is a trajectory. Trajectory corrected early prevents catastrophe later. Late correction is costly. The self recognizes that action delayed hardens inertia. Inertia pretends comfort, but comfort without growth decays capability. Capability lost shrinks destiny. The self begins to act before enthusiasm arrives. Enthusiasm waits for results. Results wait for action. Action breaks the stalemate. The self realizes that destiny responds to how difficulty is handled. Difficulty avoided compresses future. Difficulty engaged expands it. Expansion rewards resilience. The self must accept that fate is not fair. It is proportional. Proportional to commitment. Proportional to discipline. Proportional to courage over time. The self learns that destiny does not care how much effort was intended. It records what was applied. Applied effort speaks. Intent ignored is silent. The self recognizes that destiny is shaped more by what is done when tired than by what is done when inspired. Inspiration excites beginnings. Consistency completes. The self begins to notice that destiny closes possibilities. Gradually, doors do not slam abruptly. They narrow. Narrowing warns. Ignoring warnings costs freedom. The self that learns to work steadily extends freedom. Freedom and expands choice. Choice expands destiny. The self understands that destiny is relational. One action influences many lives. Influence multiplies consequence. Consequence amplified demands ethical awareness. The self no longer frames destiny as something mystical. It becomes practical. Destiny is the practical outcome of lived decisions. The self realizes that action is irreversible once enacted. It cannot be unchosen. Choice binds the future. Binding demands care. The self learns that destiny does not reward brilliance alone. It honors dependability. Dependability stabilizes expectation. Expectation organizes cooperation. Cooperation magnifies outcome. The self senses that destiny is near. Not tomorrow. Not years ahead. Now. In hands. In habits. In posture. In response. The self accepts that acting responsibly is the highest form of faith. Faith without action waits. Faith with action builds. Builds destiny consciously. The self understands now. Every action is a vote for the kind of life the self is becoming. Votes accumulated. Decide fate. There comes a moment when the self stops arguing with destiny. Argument blames. Acceptance acts. Action replaces fatalism. With authorship, the self understands that destiny was never fixed. It was forming. It is still forming. Until the final act, nothing is sealed. The self that accepts responsibility for shaping destiny moves differently. Movement becomes deliberate. Deliberate movement carries weight. Weight changes outcome. The self recognizes that destiny fears clarity. Clarity removes excuses. Excuses justify inaction. Action without excuse alters direction. The self no longer waits for assurance of success. Assurance follows alignment, not hope. Hope delays. Alignment initiates. The self understands that repetition is destiny's architect. What repeats becomes unavoidable. The unavoidable becomes visible fate. Fate surprises only the inattentive. The self realizes that destiny is educated by courage. Courage teaches destiny what the self can endure. Endurance expands horizon. Horizon defines possibility. The self sees that destiny respects limits. Only when limits are honored. Ignored limits collapse suddenly. Honored limits harden into strength. Strength expands reach. The self learns that destiny evolves. As the self evolves, change the one, and the other follows. Static cells inherit static futures. The self accepts that destiny is neither kind nor cruel. It is exact. Exactness responds to precision. Precision improves outcome. Imprecision clouds future. The self understands that action clarifies desire. Desire clarified commits effort. Effort committed constructs narrative. Narrative lived becomes destiny. The self begins to sense dignity in action. Dignity replaces despair. Despair stagnates. Dignity moves forward. The self realizes that destiny collapses when self-respect is abandoned. Self-respect enforces standard. Standard stabilizes direction. The self notes that destiny punishes inconsistency. Inconsistency erodes trust. Trust lost restricts cooperation. Restricted cooperation shrinks possibility space. The self understands that destiny achieves momentum. Momentum favors early adopters. Late commitment struggles to turn trajectory. The self no longer frames fate as outcome alone. Process matters more. The process trains character. Character navigates outcome gracefully. The self learns that destiny is cumulative consequence, not dramatic reversal. Breakthroughs are prepared invisibly. Preparation defines success rate. The self accepts that destiny shaped unwillingly still impacts fully. Refusal does not annul effect. Only deliberate engagement transforms it. The self recognizes that destiny is written, not in moments of insight, but in habits of execution. Execution never lies. The self finally understands that destiny listens more to what the self does. When choices are inconvenient, convenience lies. Difficulty tells truth the self embraces. The slow dignity of action. Slow dignity stabilizes will. Stable will builds legacy. The self no longer fears destiny. Fear once paralyzed. Now destiny is partner. Partner responds to reliability. The self that acts ethically teaches destiny restraint. Ethics applied consistently protect power from corruption. The self moves forward with sober confidence. Confidence earned through alignment. Alignment expressed through action. The self sees that destiny is not future. It is present behavior extending itself. Change behavior, and destiny changes naturally. This realization ends complaint. Complaint wastes energy. Energy saved builds effort. Effort directs fate. The self now walks with destiny instead of before it. Walking together reduces friction. Reduced friction increases endurance. Destiny stops appearing mysterious. It becomes honest. Honest systems reward honest labor. Labor performed daily leaves undeniable mark. The self understands destiny is the echo of action, and the self controls the voice.